by one author who has a new book to help guide you with these steps to grasp your confidence and own your power. I love that.
Look around the room. You'll see that you're not so alone after all, and that unconfidence could look like any of us.
Maybe your whole life you have been told that the best wins, but I'm telling you right now that the best known will win.
When I asked our next guest what his favorite thing was about his work and what he does, his answer, it's not transactional. It's all about relationships and cultivating an environment of mutual trust and accountability with your clients, your teams, and your partners just alike. My next guest's name is Mike Pallin, and Mike is special. He is the president and master trainer and coach of the Floyd Wickman Team, and he's also the author of Rethink Everything You Know About Selling Real Estate. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm kind of new to the author game. You know, I've been doing most of my communicating live, person to person. So to put it into a book and have an author like you with all of your credentials introduce me, that's quite an honor. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely. And it's fun how we met. I reached out to someone on your team and she said, you know what, you need to talk to Mike. And immediately what did I do? I reached out to you as soon as possible.
You did.
Yeah. And I wanted to learn more about you and your work and, you know, everything that you do at your company. I bought your book and I love it. It's an easy read and it's so exciting because it gives a sense of hope that you can be really successful at real estate, which is so important to have as, you know, any part of our, you know, financial portfolio, I think. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, pick your brain, talk about leadership, your passion for your work, and of course, your book.
Well, thank you. It's on Amazon, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would love to know, you know, right now you're the president of a very successful company. You and I have, you know, talked before the show. You've had clients that are longstanding clients, a lot of times for 10, 20 years even.
Yes.
And people are really having success with your training and programs. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that, just in case anybody is listening right now that could benefit from exactly what you do.
You know, I was talking to one of our longtime students a couple of days ago, and he was looking around his office because he's in a very big office. And he said that they've got new agents going out to training to teach them how to manage their money, and they haven't made any yet. They need to learn how to sell because that's how they're going to make some money. So the words Floyd Wickman in Floyd Wickman Team refer to the founder of our company. And Floyd was at one time the most sought after and most invited back speaker in the real estate industry. You know, he has since retired, but he built his reputation on having an empathy with people who struggle because he struggled. And he brought people around him who struggled and then succeeded. And, you know, as he describes it, I've never succeeded at anything that I didn't fail at first, which is probably why he never took up skydiving.
Good one. I like that.
You know, from a poverty background in Detroit.
Wow.
He rose to really fortune and fame in the real estate industry as a speaker. But he never forgot that first year as a salesperson where he just struggled mightily to even put a couple deals together. And has always had empathy with those who want to do better in this business because it's a great opportunity. You know, but the 80-20 rule has literally always applied in real estate. 80% of the agents do 20% of the business, and vice versa. 20% of the agents do 80%. And it's hard to make a living when you're fighting over scraps. So what he put together is a blueprint for how to take whatever basic skills and abilities and personality and willingness to work that you have and use a system to help you succeed, to build a business that has some value and continuity to it. And so that's what I've been doing for 20 plus years, is talking to agents who are, let's say, under the radar, in the bottom half of production, and showing them how to build a business. And then, and here's the key point, if you will, making them do what it is they have to do. You know, Floyd has always said the number one problem in real estate is that it's too easy to get into it. The bar's pretty low to get in, and it's too easy to get out of it. And while you're in it, everything's too optional. So what we do with our program is, for a short period of time, we take away the option with mandatory requirements and assignments and accountability and fun, but we teach people how to sell. And that's what changes their fortune. Because once you know how to sell, everything else falls into place.
I love that. Well, that resonates deeply. And though, though you and I are not in the same industry, sales is universal. You know, I think about so many of the entrepreneurs that I've met who were terrified of selling, like terrified, would rather crawl into a hole and die than sell to anybody, right? And a lot of times, you know, entrepreneurs in general, we start businesses because we're creative and really good at this one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We start a business and then just assume sales are going to fall into our lap. I'm not really sure. But then we realize how difficult it is sometimes to land a sale, close a customer. You don't even think about a lot of times, do you, Mike, that sales is actually a part of this, and not only a part of it, a huge part of it. And without sales, you don't have a business.
Right. And without sales, our country would come to a dead stop. We need salespeople. We need successful salespeople, because that's what makes our economy. That's what fuels it. Small business people, entrepreneurs, and salespeople. Wow, do we ever need them more than ever right now?
Yes. And it's so important, but it is, you know, terrifying for a lot of people. But one thing you said that really stood out to me was, you know, Floyd, your founder, how, you know, he grew up in poverty in Detroit.
Yes.
And a lot of people that grew up with little means, sales is especially difficult for them because maybe they have money blocks they're facing. Maybe it's a mindset thing. Maybe they don't think they're deserving of it. And I've seen a lot of really successful people ask for the bare minimum for a product or service.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. And I relate to that because I grew up in poverty as well. And I climbed my way. But it wasn't easy. It had a lot of things in my way, including money mindset blocks that I had to navigate. What do you think? In your experience as a master trainer and guru of sales, what do you think about that? Does that resonate with you? Have you heard those things before?
Well, there's a mindset that needs to change, and you know that, you know, and it doesn't come easily. For instance, our grandparents who went through the Great Depression always had a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And the people who were parents during the 50s, after we won World War II, you know, they have an abundance mindset. And if you can change your thinking, who said that? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
It's an inner game first. It really is. And the inner game sometimes gets stimulated by your background. Sometimes it gets stimulated by the habits you build right now. You know, we teach our students to say affirmations out loud, and they're not true yet. One of them is, I am a master salesperson. Well, most of them aren't right now. but they aspire to be. And you don't even have to believe affirmations for them to work for you. After Floyd had struggled mightily for a year, he had 3 transactions fall apart in one day. And he was ready to either jump off a building or quit real estate.
Yes.
And luckily, a manager from one of his branches heard him and said, Floyd, I want to give you an affirmation, and I want you to repeat this 30 times a day. I want you to write it out, put it on your desk, and put it on the bathroom mirror, and put it in your car so you see it over and over every day. And it said this: I will always be guided to do and say the things that contribute to my success. Anything that happens in my best interest. Now, when you say that to somebody who had 3 transactions, that's like groceries for a quarter for 90 days, had 3 transactions fall apart. They've got to be thinking, you're out of your mind if you think, I believe that anything that happens in my best interest. But if you say it enough times, you start to believe it. You start to live it. Or like Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, every adversity you have, every setback, every heartache contains in it the seed of an equal benefit. And the caveat is if you will look for it. Once you find the benefit, that little ray of sunshine amid the thunderstorms, and you focus on that, that changes your mind, which changes your behavior, which changes your habits. You know, that old saying, and it's a saying because it's true. Watch your thoughts because your thoughts become your words. Watch your words because your words become your actions. And watch your actions because your actions become your habits. And watch your habits because they become your destiny. It all begins up there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad I connected with you because I could go really deep into this subject. My favorite book of all time is The Science of Getting Rich.
Oh, yes.
Wallace D. Wattles.
Yeah.
1912. It is my favorite book of all time. I've listened to it. So normal people, Mike, you'll appreciate this, may listen to music while they work out. Me, I'm listening to Think and Grow Rich or The Science of Getting Rich in audio.
I love this phrase from that book. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original states permeates and penetrates the inner spaces of the universe. A thought that is imaged in this substance becomes the thing that's thought about.
Yes.
That's all about visualization. The world you see is a reflection of your thoughts. We create our own world, and that's the beginning of success in selling. The second half of it is learning the techniques, you know, the dialogue and the approaches, and all of the people skills that are required to be successful at selling. And that's, Tara, if I may, that's why I wrote the book, because this French philosopher, I think his name was André Gide, said, everything that needed to be said has already been said, but nobody was listening, so it needs to be said again. I love that quote. But if you've been paying attention to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or even the USA Today, you know that the real estate business, the whole industry is in turmoil this year. You've got CEOs and presidents resigning. You've got the whole National Association at war with the Department of Justice. It's the largest trade association in America. So we're at a time of upheaval and turmoil in the business. And whenever things are in flux like that, you take your eye off the ball. I believe what all of this has done is opened up a window of opportunity for those people who are willing to do 3 things. And the first is set a goal for themselves. And it could be an income goal. It could be a transaction goal. It could be a goal. One of the people I coach is a loan officer, and he's got a board up on his wall, the 100 families I've helped this year. That's his goal, to help 100 families. So you set yourself a goal and visualize that goal and see the progress you're making toward it every day. And then the second thing you do is you make a commitment to that goal. You go all in. Or as we like to say, if you wonder what the word commitment means, look at breakfast, bacon and eggs. The chicken made a contribution, but the pig made the commitment. You just got to go all in. This is what I am doing, period. And then the third thing you do is you return to the basics, because the basics in selling have never changed. As Floyd said many times, when the going gets tough, the weak get going and the tough get back to the basics. So this book, if nothing else, thank you for flashing it, is how to get back to those basics and what they are. Because it's not a secret, but some people, they've been so distracted by what goes on outside of the business and what's going on outside of their territory, their relationships, their client base, that they get off track, and it's literally impossible to control your thinking, control your attitude, and control your activity when you're all distracted and out of sorts.
Exactly. And I think about this a lot. This is really pertinent right now. Just, state of the world, right? It's a lot of division right now. And
Yes.
what I'm seeing is a lack of self-leadership. Because if we can get so distracted by what's going on outside of ourselves, guess what? We'll spin ourselves into an oblivion of thought, right? That's needless. And ultimately, it's not being cultivated back, right? We're giving out all of our energy to something external that, guess what? If we just realized, as you stated before, everything is working out to our greater benefit. And
I'm really glad.
things as not a negative thing or something problematic, but as something that could potentially is working out for our benefit.
Yeah. I'm glad you used the word leadership, because I think there is right now in the real estate industry as a whole a void in leadership. For some people, for some companies, they have excellent leaders, both at the top and at the office level. For some companies, there are no offices. The real estate office, brick and mortar, has become virtual, or everybody's working remotely. And the individual gets less supervision and guidance and management and direction and correction and mentoring than if they had an old-fashioned, the brick and mortar office where we used to go for a meeting once a week. There's very little face-to-face personal contact. And that's a good model for people who are self-starters, who are self-leaders, as you call them. That's self-leadership, who've already built the habits, who've already got a foundation, who already have relationships and a database and a marketing plan and all the skills in place. I mean, that's great for them. But they're the way in the minority of the number of licensed agents. There's 1.5 million members of NAR, and that's not all the licensees. There's another 500,000 licensees out there. And if you're not getting leadership from the people who are supposed to be guiding you and mentoring you and directing you, it's really hard to develop the habits on your own. I mean, that's why we have a business, because we take the people who are taking the option to fail and give them the habits they need to build the business they want that fuels the life they want.
Yes, I love that. That is so powerful. We can't do this on our own, right?
No.
Even if we have foundational levels of self-leadership, at the end of the day, we're not meant to be solo. We're meant to work as a team, as a group, because there are so many things that I lack. So the things that I lack, I hire somebody else that can complement those the weaknesses I have. I don't expect myself to learn each and everything all the time, but I have people around me that can complement my different strengths and weaknesses, right? And I think that's normal.
Yeah.
And we can't do this alone. Everybody needs some type of mentorship or guidance and third-party perspective on what we're doing that can help elevate us, right?
The most popular sport in America right now is the National Football League. Football. Everybody's football crazy. And I think its appeal is because it's a team sport. And the teamwork plays such an important role in the winning and the losing in the NFL. If we've proved anything with our training over and over, it's that if you get a group of people working together as a team, they'll always produce more than people working just as individuals. For the very reason that you just said, we support each other. We counteract each other's weaknesses and counterbalance each other's strengths. And when you can get the team working together in a spirit of harmony for a common goal, they'll always produce more than people who are just working for themselves by themselves.
Yes, absolutely. It's so powerful. I want to go back to, we were talking about old stuff, right? We're talking about Think and Grow Rich. We're talking about the science of getting rich. Because, the thing of it is, it hasn't changed. It won't change. It's universal law, right? So when we're talking about these older books, Science of Getting Rich, again, 1912, right?
Yeah.
It's still relevant today. And, right now, the conversation is going a lot more towards this, right? That was obviously very much before its time. But right now, we're learning that there's actually a neuroscience to manifesting. That, positive affirmations, as you say, help create new neural pathways. If we can do these things, we can change our belief system. If we can change our belief system about something, other things can change.
Yes.
So this is really important. This is old knowledge, but it's worth repeating because just like that one quote said, nobody was listening. And I don't think we can hear it enough. And like I said to you before we started the show, I listened to that audiobook that is on replay constantly.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I heard it, it didn't matter how old it was. All it mattered was it was truth.
It's one of our three favorites, the Science of Getting Rich and Think and Grow Rich. And then our third favorite is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino.
Oh, I love that.
And that's a wonderful book. It's got great affirmations for you to read every day. Absolutely. And it changes mindset. Dr. Carolyn Leaf wrote this cool book called Switch on Your Brain. That's the current thinking about brain chemistry and how the brain actually works in conjunction with the rest of the body. And it's also spiritually guided. And the science is there that all of this stuff from time immemorial that we've been taught, even if it's 100 or 1,000 years old, or what's that old book, a couple thousand years old? I forget.
That's right.
It's all true, right? And it's the reason is that's why it's lasted this long.
Yeah,
because it resonates with people still to this day.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I would love, a lot of people are listening and, they're probably really inspired. I don't know how you couldn't be really inspired, right? But I'm thinking of, let's say it's someone that you typically work with. Maybe it's a real estate agent or team and they've never worked with you in the past and they're struggling. And you know what? It's really hitting them, all these outside forces, right? Mm-hmm. Politics, all of these things, the housing market is hitting them and they've got internal things going on in their own personal lives. And they're feeling less confident in their abilities and they're maybe in fight or flight mode right now. I would love to hear some of your wisdom on what somebody can do to go from that fight or flight mode stage right now where they're losing business and feeling like they can't catch up to actually succeeding. What is something they could do?
Well, it's something they should not do. And that's try to fix it all by themselves.
Yeah.
Our coaching program for our program graduates, we have a coaching program where people meet once a week. And in our training programs, we meet once a week. But those who graduate from it carry on with the coaching program because we live in weekly compartments. We think in weekly compartments. We manage our time and our activity on a week-to-week basis. There's a reason why the week ends on Saturday and then starts over on Sunday. It doesn't keep going. There's only 7 days. So if you're trying to do this all by yourself, the odds are really against you. So that's why we put teams of people together. And we have a team of 8, for instance, in our coaching program, and they're from 8 different areas of North America, 8 different companies, different ages, different levels of production, different levels of experience. And what they do is they come together once a week and they first of all report the activity and the results they've tracked during the week. And it's measured toward a specific goal, like a transaction goal or production goal. Because if you're not tracking your numbers and measuring your progress toward your goal, first of all, you never know when you're off track. Or it's too late when you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But second, if you never see progress toward a goal, it's harder to stay motivated. But if you can see progress, I've only got 40% of my goal left to go. I remember I was asked to consult with a team on Halloween a few years back, October 31st. And I sat down with the team, and the first question I asked was, what was your goal on January 1st? And they said, we want to do $15 million in sales volume. That's $15 million worth of homes sold. The 4 people on the team. And then I said, well, where are you right now here on October 31st with 2 months to go? And they didn't know. Now, what's the problem with not knowing? See, if you're only that far behind, it only takes a little bit of extra effort to catch up. But if you get that far behind, that's when people give up. So it took them about a half hour to figure out where they were. And they came back and said, we're at 3.9 million right now. Now, what are the odds that if they want to do 15 for the whole year and they're at 3.9 by the end of October, what are the odds they're going to hit that?
Yeah.
The only out is to say, well, our goal was really only 5. And then they got a shot at hitting that. So that's why it's so important to track your numbers and report them to a group, to somebody else. It could be individually to a coach or to a manager, a direct report, or it could be to a team. And I like the team concept. We always have. And that's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is get together once a week with those like-minded people and share your best practices. You'll find something that works for you every once in a while. And if you keep it to yourself, well, it only benefits you. But if you share it with your team, you're benefiting other people. And then the third thing is you're going to have challenges and problems and obstacles pop up all the time. And if you try to solve them all by yourself, I don't think you're getting the most universal perspective on how to do it. So that's why we do a problem-solving exercise every week with every team. Somebody once said, if your production level is here and you want it to go to here, but your problem-solving ability is here, and you want your production here, where does your problem-solving ability have to go to? It's got to rise up to it. Otherwise, your production is going to shrink back to your level of ability to solve problems and prevent problems, by the way. It's like all those people who win the lottery. For the vast majority of them, they end up broke in a relatively short period of time. Because if you're not already a thinking millionaire with millionaire habits and somebody hands you $1 million, chances are you're not going to keep it for very long. So when you can track and report numbers and know ratios Like, what are my strengths and weaknesses? How many of this do I have to do to get one of those? And how many of those do I have to do to get to there? When you know those ratios, it's so much easier to plan your activity for the week. You know, there's two ways to plan a weekly activity. One is guess at it. How much do I have to do to make progress toward my goal? Well, I'm just going to guess I better do this. The other is to have numbers that tell you exactly what your ratios are. If I have 18 conversations with people about real estate this week, chances are I'll get the 2 leads I need to get the 1 appointment I need.
Yep.
And if your activity plan is based on guesswork, and what if it's for the whole year? What if your business plan is based on guesswork for the whole year? You know, it's just way too easy to get talked out of it, to rationalize it away, you know? But if you know, when I do this at this level, here's the end result. Almost always, it's like science. Then you're going to stay on track more often.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much wisdom there, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. That's number one, right?
Right.
You have to measure it. You have to acknowledge something. You have to set an intention about something.
The
and then you have
part
to.
of it all is the accountability.
Yes. And then
you mean I have to show up every week? You mean I have to track my numbers every week? I have to report every week? I have to participate? Yes, that's what you have to do. Because the opposite is you're taking the option to fail.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm a little passionate about this.
No, I am too. I say it all of the time to the entrepreneurs I work with. You know, I had a sales trainer one time, and he asked me a very simple question, and it changed my life.
Wow.
So simple. He said, "When's the last time you presented your offer?" That's it. That's all he asked me. You know, the crazy part is I had to think about it. And he said, "You're thinking about it, which means you haven't presented it today, probably not yesterday, probably a week or more, which means you've lost 7 opportunities or whatever, however many days it was, at a chance to increase your life and your business. If you hesitate for any amount of time, it doesn't work. If you're not presenting your offer every single day, telling people what you do, the problem you solve, how it can help their business or their life, you actually are taking away an opportunity from someone and yourself. So it's a net negative. That's pretty shocking. It's a negative loss. And you think about that from that perspective, that actually 2 people are losing because you didn't talk about what you do.
Right.
That's pretty powerful.
That's why I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, we all need to talk about it more. And I tell this to people all of the time. Again, if you're not presenting your offer every single day, something's wrong, right? And maybe it's a lack of confidence, self-belief, clarity in your offer. Maybe it's you faced rejection. Maybe it's you just had a really big loss. Maybe you're having some things happen at home. Whatever it is, it's going to impact your business if you allow it to. And if it continues to happen, that's when people think they're failures. And it's not because they're failures. There's a lot of really good, smart people out there that I believe could be so successful if they presented their offer more with confidence.
Yeah. I'm glad you said home. Because I wanted to add one more ingredient to those who I've observed succeed very well and consistently over long periods of time. And it's balance. Without balance, you burn out. And they have developed what I like to call home field advantage. Speaking of the NFL again, you know. Excuse me. I believe a healthy family life is not incompatible with successful real estate or success in selling or as an entrepreneur. But you've heard of the entrepreneurs and the salespeople who grind 7 days a week 12 to 16 hours a day and go home to an empty house.
Mm.
We encourage our students to take a full day off every week and get away from the business and get away from the electronic stimulation of the phone and the text and the beep and all that. And that's just the beginning. It's also LFTs, things you look forward to and things your family can look forward to, because you're going to live out of balance in one area or another of your life. But if you ask your family to live out of balance for too long without a break, without a prize, without something to look forward to, that's when they start second guessing whether or not this is the life they want. So when you set your goals, include your family in them. I'll never forget, we believe in charting progress, obviously. And I used to keep a goal chart on the wall between the garage and the kitchen. And I'd track my progress toward that goal. And my son Tim was 15 at the time, and he noticed this chart. And he said, "What's all that?" I said, "Well, that's my goal chart." It was a reverse thermometer, like out on the United Way. And they used to have that giant thermometer in the front lawn. Well, I believe in those because you get to see your progress. And so I told my son Tim all about it. And then he pointed at the very top and said, "Well, what happens when you hit this?" And I said, "That's when you get a car." That was the day he became my biggest cheerleader.
I'm your biggest cheerleader too if the prize is a car, right? Great.
Yeah. So if they know what's the payoff for them, we've had students who have a goal chart that their kids actually participate in. Every time they do a transaction, they get to put a sticker up on the chart. And when they fill it in, we're going to Disneyland, or Disney World. That's home field advantage. We do date night once a week, and date night is you don't go out. Date night is you lock the door and turn off the phones, and it's just you and your spouse, and you fall in love all over again. We do countables, What is it you can absolutely count on me for? And when they know all those things, when the people you live with and love and depend on, when they know, here's what's in it for you, and here's what you can count on from me, that's called home field advantage. If you come home to doubting and complaints, and one of the best ways to do it is, we like to say it, hang it on the hook. You put a hook in your garage. When you pull the car in at the end of the day, you take real estate off and hang it on the hook before you go in the house. And what do they want from you? Well, they want a little bit of undivided attention. And that's all. They don't need to hear all the problems and travails that you had that day. They want you to pay attention to them. And that's a few minutes. It really doesn't, it just changes everything.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. I think I read something recently that the greatest predictor of success, I don't know if it's financial success, or I assume it is your spouse. Your partner. And, that makes sense on a really big level. If somebody that you're coming home to is supportive of your goals or not, it can really change the trajectory of your career, the amount you have in, of course, finances, but also that personal confidence as well, which is so essential for being an entrepreneur. But I just love this conversation, Mike. I think so much wisdom. My biggest takeaway from this is that, it's time to go back to the basics. in a world where we overcomplicate everything, where there's a lot of oversaturation of information, and it's time to go back to what really, really works and is rooted in just the core fundamental principles of the universe, of everything. And it's so powerful when we shift that mindset from, just chasing these fads and trends and getting distracted by shiny objects to going back to the core. What do you think about that?
I think most people are drowning in a sea of information and thirsting for direction at the same time.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I wrote the book, to make it a blueprint. Here's some direction. This is, if you're asking yourself, how do I know? Our program has graduated a couple 100,000 successful salespeople. And if you're even paying attention a little bit, you figure out there are some common traits that the people who pick themselves up out of non-production or low production and move themselves up into consistently good production, even some great stuff. When you see the common ingredients, you got to share the message.
Yes,
because
absolutely. Without
direction, you're just drowning.
Yeah.
Because information's everywhere, and there's so much competition for your attention from the media, from everything around us, and we have only a limited amount of attention to pay to task, to success.
Yeah.
And once that gets used up, I don't know, you ever had one of those days where you can't seem to focus on anything?
Oh, yeah.
It's usually because there's too many things left undone or unfinished or up in the air or unresolved, and your attention is just split in so many different directions. So it's being able to focus on what's priority. What are the highest priority activities I have to do? That's the biggest discipline we teach our students. Everybody's got a to-do list, and it's usually as long as your arm. There's usually hundreds of things on it you could do. But what's the most important thing to do? What are your priorities? So we have them write down just 5 things a day. Like Napoleon Hill said, think and grow rich. Think first. It's not just grow rich. You got to think. And think what's important. What is a priority? And if you can write down, these are the 5 most important things I got to do today, you'll get them done if you work on them, if you focus on them. And that leaves room for literally everything else you'd want to do. But if you start with the minutiae, if you're just scattered, then you never get to the important stuff. So high priority activities. Big producers consistently work high priority activities.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Wow. I'm going to go sell more. So I appreciate all of the advice today. It gave me a good boost of confidence. But Mike, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show today, sharing your wisdom, not just about real estate, but about sales in general and mindset. And more importantly, leadership. Regardless of if we have employees or not, we need to hone in leadership skills, and especially focusing on that self-leadership, because we cannot lead a team of many until we learn self-mastery and lead a team of one. Mike, it was a pleasure for being on the show, and thank you for everyone who listened today. Don't forget to share this episode with your audience. Like, subscribe, and leave a review. We will see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you, Tara.